You've been away for 3 months living in Seoul, Korea.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
That's right.
Back in Oz.
Yeah, South Korea.
Seoul is the city? No?
Yeah. In South
Korea, sorry.
South Korea.
Yeah, you can't. Yeah, sorry, South Korea, not North, as opposed to North Korea. And we got to talking, and you were talking to Paige as well earlier. About the differences, cultural differences when it comes to property, and even like affordability.
Yeah, man.
Right? In South Korea versus Australia.
Yeah.
And we're like, mate, this is something we need to.
Man, I didn't think it'd be a topic that we can talk about on the pod, but. When we got into it, it's like, it's actually really fascinating.
We might need 2 pods. But Australia versus Korea, who does it better? What can we learn from them? What can they learn from us? How do they live over there?
Mate, it's mainly apartments.
Yeah.
So it's heaps of high-rises, really massive high-density apartments. Like I didn't go there to do market research on the housing market, but just from speaking to people... on the ground, just from what I'm seeing, just having conversations, like these topics, just like the conversations you'd have in Australia, these things come up, right? And they have high density apartments. Most people live in apartments. Only people who are very, very wealthy actually live in a house. For example, from the movie The Parasite, or Parasite, that famous movie, that amazing sort of mansion, that house in the middle of the city, Psy song Gangnam Style. Gangnam is actually a wealthy suburb in Seoul.
Gotcha.
Right. So that's where all, the business people live, the celebrities live, and that's where you have a lot of houses. But everywhere else is full of apartments. And most people live in apartments.
Yeah.
Right. And they've got different type of apartments. So they've got, like Rose's song, APT, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they call an apartment. They call it apart.
Apart.
Right. So
this all makes sense to me.
Apart, right? So it's an apartment, but they also have things like office-tel. So an office-tel is like a mixed-use apartment where you got shops downstairs, cafes, supermarkets, and you got residential upstairs.
Okay.
And then you got a different type of apartment called a one-room. So they're usually studios, right? So they're more suitable for different demographics, for different lifestyles. So if you're single, professional, no family, you usually live in a one-room, like a studio apartment. Right, so they'd have like a building full of one rooms, or if you're a couple, you live in an office-tel because they're generally your 2 bedrooms, or if you're a family, you live in an apartment. Usually, 3 to 4 bedrooms.
I love that. It's interesting because we often split it as, you got apartments, you got house and land.
That's right.
You got townhouses in the middle.
That's right.
But they've gone even further to split that apartment stock.
Yeah.
So they're building based on the different demographics. Like building apartments for families.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes to show just a different mindset to what we do.
It is.
I think a lot of apartments in Australia, you got your 1 and 2 bedders. You might have your 3 bedders. Very rare we have a 4 bedder.
Yeah.
So like apartments in Australia, maybe they're built more with investors in mind or with couples in mind.
That's right.
Or downsizers in mind, as opposed to families who, obviously in South Korea, in Seoul, if they can't afford the house, which it sounds like a lot of people can't.
That's right.
They still need the space. They still need the amenity. So I'm guessing the amenity, the planning is very different as well.
Yeah. So that's a good point because a lot of the apartments are built in these it's kind of like our community style estate developments.
Yeah.
So there's a swimming pool, there's schools, inside
the
estate. So there's a supermarket. So there's all these things that people need. There's parks, open space. And in that, for example, boundary, you'll have 5-6 towers that are, 50 stories, 100 stories high, right? So the amenities are very comprehensive. So that's the idea of an apartment. Yeah, it is more catered for the family. So kids can go downstairs. Yeah, it's good environment, good area. It's really convenient. You have a lot of things at your disposal, convenience stores, pharmacies and all of that stuff, right? Compared to, for example, if you live in a building that's a one room, that's not usually in a community estate.
Gotcha.
Right. So, so they have all these pockets of different community estates for apartments.
So the one rooms might be like near the universities.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it? The
office-tel?
Office-tel?
Yeah.
Is that near like business district?
It is. Yeah. So I think, I could be wrong, but I think they used to be commercial buildings that are just completely offices, but they refit them out based on the changing needs of the population. So they convert them into residential properties.
There was a lot of talk about that over here during COVID, when like no one was working in the office.
Yeah, exactly
anymore.
right.
Like, what are we going to do with all this office space?
Yeah. So you usually have the upper floors are residential, and the middle floors might be offices still, or service-based businesses, and downstairs you'd have cafes, restaurants, and things like that.
And these family appartements, am I saying it right? Appartements.
Yeah,
I'm thinking about Bruno Mars and Rose. Are they like? They must be big, right? Would they be the same size as like a house over here?
They are generally much bigger.
Bigger than a house, like an average house.
Or
bigger than our average 3-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, like if you're comparing to our 2-3 bedroom sort of old California bungalow houses, they could be bigger.
Bigger than those.
Yeah, because usually they would have 2 generations living in there, right? So you've got your parents and the kids living in there, right? So because housing is expensive, right? So unless you're getting married, people tend to live with their parents. Yeah. They don't move out, even in their 30s or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's very expensive. And because the apartment are usually 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, you don't need to move out.
Yes.
Right. So, that's the difference. Like they primarily build these apartments with 3 to 4 bedroom dimensions versus us building apartments where it's majority 2 bedrooms and there's less 3 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's the issue with people not that keen in Australia wanting to live in an apartment, because a lot of them are 2 bedrooms.
Yes.
Right. So it's only useful as a couple, but if you plan to have kids or family, then you need to move again.
Yes.
But if the 3 and 4 bedrooms were more affordable, I think people would generally be more open to live in an apartment.
I think so too, especially if there's like people see an apartment as a stepping stone to the house or a downsize from the house. Very rare is there room in between. Like you couldn't have, I got 3 kids, us in an apartment. The people that live below us would hate it.
Yeah.
And it would get.
And that's funny because there's a recent Korean movie that's quite popular that's come out. It's the theme of the movie is about noise. Yeah. Right. From upstairs and downstairs. So this guy slaved his life away, bought this apartment, but he can't get peace because there's noise in the apartment. So noise is a real issue. For people living in apartments in Korea.
Interesting. Yeah, especially if there's 100 floors, maybe.
Yeah. Like you got kids, like you said. Like families are living in there. So if you're just a couple and you're living down below, like all the accommodation I lived in Korea in apartments, they'll have signage everywhere to tell you don't do your washing after 9 p.m. Respect your neighbors, keep noise to a minimum after 9, because noise is an issue.
Yeah, would be when there's so many people. Yeah, it would be much more dense, right? And
that's right.
It's kind of like you'd have not mini cities, but I guess they're mini cities. If you're talking about like a Upper an area with like 5 towers, parkland, shops, like it's a mini city.
It is. Right? Yeah, lots of people. There's schools in there, So you're really building a community.
What's the sprawl like? I mean, because you were saying earlier off air that it's like mountains, and then the city, and then would you if you're living in a community, would you typically stay in that community, or would you walk to the next one or catch transport into CBD? Like what's day to day kind of like there?
Yeah, so like Seoul is known as the city of mountains, so they have a lot of mountains within the city. So that's why hiking in Seoul is a really popular activity. But people generally would be catching the subway and the buses. Like their public transport system is unbelievable. Yeah, subway's always on time, heaps of services. The buses are always on time. Yeah, like there's a thing on even TikTok that the bus drivers drive crazily. Yeah, like they're just maniacs, but they're always on time. So if I'm waiting at a bus stop and the display says that the bus is going to come in 2 minutes, it comes in 2 minutes. Like we used to have conversations about how does this bus arrive on time, or all these buses arrive on time all the time. Right. So public transport is pretty convenient, and a lot of people catch subway to get into work. It might take 40 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour. Obviously, if you live closer to the CBD, you can catch a bus, but it's more expensive. So people might live further away. But I think because the transportation system is so good and so convenient, you can afford to live further away.
Yeah.
Right. So you can live an hour away and catch the subway in for work.
So an hour away in a apartment style community.
That's right. Because that's more affordable.
Yeah. Right. And I guess you have everything you need, right? If you got like shops, cafes, parks, all in schools even. Yeah. In that community.
Yeah.
You can sort of live there, and if you have to travel to and from work 40 minutes.
Yeah, because I think they have the population density. Like everywhere's convenient. Like there's convenience stores like every 50 steps. There's restaurants everywhere. There's just there's just everything everywhere. Like, it doesn't feel like, oh, you're living in this particular suburb and it's really dead and there's not many amenities and shops. Like, everywhere is quite populated, so I don't think you're going to feel like you're missing out on anything other than what your commute to work is going to be, right? Because the subway can be really crowded and packed. The rush hours are really crazy. So that's probably the only difference.
Are the rush hours the same as, like, so we got our 9 till 5 culture? Is it different there? So they've got the 9 to 5, but they tend to work a little bit later. But like the rush hours are pretty bad. So like this month they had the high school or the university entrance exam. So it's like our HSC, right? Yep.
So to prepare for that day, they tell all the office workers to go into work at 11 so that the students can make it on time to go to the schools that they need to go to do the exam. So they don't do it at their own school.
I like that.
Right. So everybody stops.
Yeah, I like that.
Just to make sure that no student is going to be late for the exam that's going to get them into their university. But like the rush hours are pretty crazy. Yeah.
I'm interested in these communities, right? Who builds them? Because like it's not like you're building one tower or a developer builds a tower here. There's a considerable amount of planning.
So
how long does it take?
So that's a great question. So it's very different off the plan in Australia. So most of the off the plan are built by what they call these conglomerate companies. So like Samsung, your Hyundais. They don't just do cars, right? Hyundai doesn't just do cars in Korea. Like they have shopping centers, they do logistics, or they do all sorts of stuff. Like they do food, they do logistics, they do shipping, as an example, right? So these massive companies are the ones that build these developments. So you don't have smaller private development companies building apartments or just building one tower or one block. So if you compare to Australia, it's kind of like the only people building are Stocklands, Mirvac, Lendlease, and Bill Berger, and that's it. For example, no one else builds.
So it's not necessarily companies set up to build and develop.
That's right.
It's these bigger conglomerates.
Correct.
They do a whole bunch of things, and they have their building arm, their development
That's right.
arm.
Exactly right. So they all have construction subsidiaries of their business, and the projects are so massive. That's why they require these massive corporations to build them, and they build them quick. Right. So that's why they build these communities with multiple towers all at once.
So they build 6 towers. How long would it take? I don't know if you even know the answer to this question.
I wouldn't know how long that'll take. But the impression that I get is that it doesn't take long. It's very quick because the companies are well resourced. Right. So and plus there's government support. Right.
Yes.
So the government wants to see these towers done. The government wants to see the redevelopment. So what they do is they also redevelop a lot of the land that have older properties on them, industrial sort of decaying industrial areas. They demolish them and they build 6 towers, for example, or put in a shopping center and 2-3 towers.
Wow.
But these are massive projects. It's not like you drive down Parramatta Road and you notice, oh, look, there's one.
The
kebab shop's not there anymore. There's an apartment building going up. Like that doesn't really happen. It'd be a whole block. Right.
It's like, that suburb that used to be there.
It's
now.
Correct. So they try to redefine suburbs that are starting to decay for whatever reason because the industries are no longer as relevant.
Yeah. And I'm guessing the further out, the more affordable. As they build more and more, it's more affordable up that way.
Yeah, that's right.
What is affordability like over there? Are people are they struggling with, we're talking about inflation and cost of things here and people talking about how hard it is for first home buyers to get into the market.
Yeah.
You've hinted already, if you're 30, still living at home, like it's normal over there if you're not married.
Yeah.
Are people, what's the struggle? Are there the same struggles over there as we have over here?
Yeah, like anecdotally, from what I've heard, it's the same struggle. Exactly how much is it or how many times your income is the property price or, how many times your income are the mortgages people taking out. That part I don't know, but, through having conversations with locals, the impression I'm getting is that buying a property is almost impossible.
Over there. So same story.
Correct. So like a lot of the young professionals, they give up on it. So that's why their birth rate, their marriage rate is very low. They're one of the lowest in the world.
I heard a statistic that South Korea, the culture is on the brink of non-existing. Like it's in 50 years.
Yeah. There's that famous
it may not exist.
That YouTube video. Yeah, it's true because I think their birth rate is 0.75. So that means every couple is having 0.7.
Less than one kid.
Yeah, less than one kid. So you need 2.1 kids per couple to maintain the population, right? So that's the issue. And I think the issue relates to, the cultural requirement that to get married, you need a property. That's the general, idea and the pressure, right? So if you're going to propose, like as a man, to your long-term partner, her parents are expecting, or she's expecting, that there's housing.
So that's a cultural thing. Like we're getting married.
Yeah.
As like my parents won't let you marry me because
that's right.
There's nowhere for us to live.
Yeah, or they don't want you to rent.
They don't. Okay.
Yeah, so that puts pressure on people, and then they're like, well, I can't buy a property, so I'm not going to think about getting married either because they go hand in hand.
Yes.
So what I'm going to do is just, live my life, make okay amount of money. I'll enjoy my time doing what I want. So that's why you have a low marriage rate and a low birth rate. And also having kids is super expensive too.
Why?
Because a lot of a lot of their money goes into tutoring because it's a highly competitive society, right? So if you think about it, like I just mentioned that they stop the traffic.
Yeah.
For students.
That says a lot.
That's like,
it does.
And that exam happens in one day. So our HSC happens over, depending what subjects you're doing. You got English today, you got math tomorrow, you're doing Italian next week. Their exam is one day, 8 a.m. to I think 6 p.m. or whatever. And that's it. That determines what university you go into. And if you go into, not as popular university, that can affect what job you're going to get in the future. So it's massive, right? So if the country will stop people going into work for the sake of that exam, that just tells you how much focus they put on the students' academical performance, right? So a lot of parents will want to buy properties in, just like here, in school catchment areas for schools that are popular, right? And they send their kids to tutoring, right? And we're not talking about like on a Saturday. Like we're talking about every day after school. So you finish school, then you go to tutoring for another 3-4 hours, right? The cost of that. And if you have more than one kid, that multiplies, right? So, then you might have to do extracurricular stuff. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, like offline with you, that food is generally cheap.
Yeah.
Food and drinks, right? Eating out is quite affordable.
I mean, that sounds fantastic.
But what's not affordable are services like learning piano, learning tennis, going to tutoring, sending your kids to tutoring for a whole 5 days a week. And if you got multiple kids, there's a lot of pressure. And perhaps you have a mortgage or you own a car, and all of that stuff isn't cheap, right? So that's why I think having kids is super expensive, and these things deter people from wanting to have a family, wanting to have kids. That shifts the mindset. There's some cafes in Korea that don't allow kids. Yeah, because people want to go there for their peace and enjoyment, right? Yeah, so you'd never see that here.
There's nothing more annoying than other people's kids, especially if you're not a parent yourself.
Exactly right. Yeah. So I think that's the overall sort of cultural sentiment that I noticed there, and it's very telling, and it's all related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know the average price over there, or what?
I don't know the average price because I think like I didn't get into that detail because I think it does come down to areas. But what is interesting is that buying off the plane is very different in South Korea versus in Australia.
How does it work over there?
You have ballot systems. So it's not just anybody can buy off the plan. And because housing is not seen as a wealth creation tool. So housing is seen as shelter.
Yes.
Right. So most people are buying to live.
I mean, that makes sense, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly right. And that's what we always talk about. So in order to do that, like you can't just, and because there's so much demand and the population is much bigger, it's not just, this development's come on the market. It's first in, first serve. You actually got to go into a ballot system.
So hold on. So ballot system. So like new development comes up.
Yep.
There's 1,000 upper-tiers.
Yep.
I'm going to keep saying
it.
2,000 people want to live there.
Yeah.
You go into the ballot.
Yeah.
There's a price that's set.
Yeah.
So everyone that goes into the ballot understands this is the price.
Yeah.
And then you get drawn out of a hat.
Yeah, so before you get drawn out of a hat, so sometimes you get drawn out of a hat, but sometimes they have a grading system based on your needs. So are you buying an apartment for a family of 4 versus are you buying an apartment for a couple? So you get points, right? Are you earning a certain level of income? What's your situation? So that determines your priority, right? So, are you living with your parents in this apartment? Or are you living by yourself? How long have you been waiting for an apartment? How many apartments have you missed? What's your situation? How far do you live from here to work? There are all these categories, and they assess you and they determine your priority. Right? And even sometimes, because there's so much demand, then they got to go ballot. Right, because for example, there's so many people that are all in need of housing equally.
Yeah.
So how do you choose between this person versus that person? Right. So you go for a lottery.
Okay, so criteria first, lottery second.
Yeah, and then also the apartments are generally sold below market. So there's an incentive. So they're a little bit cheaper than if you were to go buy an existing property.
How does that even work though?
No idea. I don't know if it's a government incentive.
I wonder if the Hyundais of the world get subsidies from government.
Man, I reckon they would.
Yeah.
I reckon they would. Like it's a joint venture, right? Like the government's giving you approval for this massive development.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe using your economy as a scale, you can reduce the price.
Yeah.
Right. But you get the opportunity to build 6 towers versus 1.
Yeah.
Surely, right? I'm sure they're making money.
Yeah.
Right. But then you can pass that benefit and saving to the actual home buyer.
Well, they probably own, when you think about it, the conglomerate, right?
Yeah.
So say it's Hyundai, because it's one that I remember you saying. They might own the shops or the cafes or the schools or whatever in that sort of community as well. So they're sort of always,
that's
always
right.
making money.
That's right, because there's another conglomerate called Lotte. So Lotte make those, those Pepero sticks. So they're like a long box. There's sticks, chocolate on them, right? So it's like a snack. And they make those famous Korean choco pies.
Yeah.
So they do confectionery, they do shopping centers, they do construction development.
Which is crazy.
Yeah. So like they've recently had an approval for, I can't remember what area, but they can build a shopping center and they're building a couple of towers.
Yep.
So it's a package deal.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where it makes sense.
Back to the lottery then. I can imagine, because at the moment we see here went to another auction, missed out, went to another auction, missed out. That's kind of their version of that. I'm in the lottery, missed out. I'm in the lottery, missed out.
Yeah.
That would be so frustrating.
Yeah, so you go in the system
and
your details are there. All right, so you go in the government system and your details are there. That help determine your priority. Yeah, like whether you got kids or if you don't have kids. So it makes sense, right?
Maybe it's not crazy. Maybe it's fair.
Maybe
that's a fair way to assess who should live here.
Yeah, like if you've been waiting longer than someone else, maybe you should take priority for housing for projects that are coming up.
And so you mentioned housing as a form of shelter,
as
opposed to like a wealth creation,
which
we do. I think it's probably a negative and a positive in Australia. Like we've got so much wealth in property, which has been great for such a long period of time, but it also means that there are other problems that are surfacing because of it. We won't go into that right now, but are there limitations on investment properties over there?
Yeah, so they've got limitations where the government discourages you from buying investment properties or using properties as a speculation wealth creation tool. So increased taxes, increased capital gains, buying costs, selling costs, stuff like that. So like the government uses those tools to discourage people, but mainly through taxes. So if you own a property, then you go buy another one as an investment, the taxes are high. And also the bank comes in as well with their lending criteria that discourages people or makes it more difficult to own or to buy and own multiple investment properties.
That's a huge difference. I mean, we have negative gearing over here. Like we almost have, we have tax incentives for people who invest in property. Over there, it's the complete opposite.
Yeah, so it's a disincentive.
Yeah.
Right. And also an interesting fact that I learned was that South Korea has the world's second highest take-up of crypto investments. So rather than people, because you can't invest in property, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're super rich and you're buying commercial buildings, like in Gangnam and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or you're so rich that the disincentives are not enough to discourage you from buying and you continue to do so. But for most people, the ordinary people, that's not a feasible wealth creation tool to buy property.
Yeah.
So they invest in crypto.
So Gen Z, even the millennials, I guess.
Oh, it's massive in crypto.
Buying crypto.
It's massive in crypto.
Buying shares.
Yeah. So
K-pop,
crypto probably...
K-pop concerts.
Yeah, 100%. Crypto probably bigger than shares, I reckon.
Crypto bigger?
Yeah, because crypto is seen as...
digital,
and you can get rich quicker. Right? Yeah, because you'll see some people driving Ferraris and Lamborghinis down the street.
But so, what? Okay, so they're buying the Ferrari, the Lamborghini.
Yeah.
They're not buying a house?
Oh, some may, but, if you made your money through crypto and you're 23.
But if you're going, I'm 23, I'm a crypto millionaire, I'm buying a Ferrari, I'm living at home with my parents, man, I'm not getting married anytime soon.
I'm probably buying the car too, right?
So the house is more the status symbol if you want to get married and start a family, and less people are getting married and starting families.
That's right.
That's wicked. That's crazy mindset, eh? It's so different. I think that's incredible. The tax on the investment is interesting to me. I just want to go back to that for a second, because one thing that blew my mind when we were speaking about this and realized that, hey, this is actually something we should talk about on the pod, is that investment side, the rental side. The way they do rents over there blew my mind.
Oh, right. Yeah. So you're talking about the Jeonse system, right?
Jeonse. I didn't want to say it until you did.
Yeah. That's very fascinating, right? Yeah. And by the way, just want to preface, right? Like, I'm not an expert in South Korea, right? Like, I've been there for 3 months, and these are just anecdotal conversations and stories. You're
more of an expert than I am.
Right?
Tell me the disclaimer with your sexy voice. Is
so if there's any mistakes or errors, man, please don't come at me, right?
No, comment, tell us. Tell us. And then we'll
point out the difference, right? But so from what I've been told while I was there is that the way you can rent is you can pay the landlord like 60 to 80% of the value of the property as a lump sum, and then you don't have to pay rent, and you can live, like the lease will be 2 years.
So you can do that?
Yeah, right. So if you do that, so like the bigger your deposit, the lower your rent. So you might not have to pay so much that you don't pay any rent, right? But if you can offer a high deposit compared to the value of so let's say you got 100 grand in the bank account in savings, but you're still renting and you're not buying a property, you could look at paying that as a deposit, as a bond.
So you could say, landlord, I'll give you 100K.
Yeah, I'll give you 100K, but instead of charging me $900 a week, charge me $350.
Okay.
For 2 years, right? And generally the lease term is 2 years.
And so, but what happens at the end of that 2 years?
Then you renegotiate, right? Because the property value might change.
But so you've spent that 100K?
Yeah. So if you don't want to rent anymore, you get it back.
So it's like it's a holding deposit?
That's right.
And
that's right. Yeah. So I think, because the question would be, why would somebody do that?
Yeah, that was my question.
Yeah. Why didn't you go invest 100 grand
if you got 60%?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you buy something?
Yeah. So I'm not sure why you wouldn't buy, or maybe it's not enough to buy what you want. Similar to here, you can afford to rent where you like to live, but you may not necessarily be able to afford in the same place, right?
Okay.
So then you will do that. Perhaps you have a preference that you want more stability in the cash flow. But I do think that idea is more attractive in a low interest rate environment, because if you're keeping that money in the bank, if you got 60 to 70% of the value of the property, instead of keeping that money in the bank and you're getting, say, 2% interest, I think that's where people are like, take that, I don't have to pay rent.
Yeah.
But if the interest rate is higher, it could be different. Or maybe some people don't want to invest the money, right? Like, I don't know where to park this 200 grand. Like, I don't like the share market. I'm not going to put in crypto.
Yeah.
I don't want to put in a managed fund. Maybe I'm old school, so I'll just put it in as a deposit bond.
Yeah.
Right. As a rental bond, and then I can reduce my rent.
It's almost like a cash flow. From a cash flow perspective, you kind of feel like you're living for free.
It is.
I mean, you're obviously not. You're putting that money down.
Yeah.
But you're week to week. If you're not paying rent, rent week to week, you're not paying a mortgage week to week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Food's cheap. Drinks are cheap.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
It's not a bad lifestyle.
And it's not so extreme that you don't pay rent. Like I said, if you can offer higher deposit on the bond, you pay less weekly rent or monthly rent. So a lot of people I talk to, their rent is actually really cheap because they put up a much bigger deposit.
I would love anyone that's watching on YouTube or listening to drop some comments. If you understand the Jeonse scheme and how it works better than we do, drop the comments. Let us know, like, how much do you get money back at the end? How's that work? I'd be interested to learn more about it. It's anyone that wants to look into it. I'm going to do this too. It's Jeonse, the Jeonse system.
Jeonse, yeah.
Jeonse. I'd be interested. So if we got any professionals out there that understand it, drop the comments. And
yeah, man, it's very fascinating, and I think it's only unique to Korea.
I've never heard of it before until you mentioned it.
Yeah, like when I was told about it, it was wild because everybody I was talking to when we're talking about how much it costs to rent and this and that, we're talking about, oh, my rent's really cheap, or they tell me their rent. I'm like, man, you live in the middle of Seoul.
Yeah.
How come your rent's so cheap? Oh, I put up a massive deposit. I put in 20 grand as a deposit. I'll put in 50 grand Aussie equivalent, so that's why my rent is much cheaper than compared to a less deposit. Yeah, so
very interesting.
Yeah,
mate, that's a lot to unpack. What are the key takeaways? You've got they rent differently.
Yep.
The culturally different. Like there's this whole thing about status of when you're getting married, having kids, you need to own a house.
Yeah.
They build differently. They live differently. Different, like this whole apartment community lifestyle.
Yeah.
There's a lot of differences. The tax system is so different. That investment tax, like completely opposite to us.
Yeah.
What are the biggest takeaways that, if you're comparing what we're doing over here to what they're doing over there, what do you think we could take from over there that might improve our system a little bit more? What ideas could we bring over here or tweak based on what you've seen over there or what we've talked about today? How can we do it better? Or how can they do it?
Yeah, the one that stands out for me is building bigger apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah, building more 3 to 4 bedroom apartments because at the moment we've got a supply issue, right? That's creating the housing crisis. It's not anything else really. We're just not building enough, right? And I think ultimately you can't keep building houses, right? The land is limited.
Yeah.
But if you build in apartments, but apartments that people can see as their forever home. So now at the moment, the apartments are always seen as, like you said, a bridge to a house.
Yeah.
It's always seen like that.
Or a bridge back.
Yeah, right. So what about if you had more 3, 4, even 5 bedroom apartments, that people, instead of buying a house, it's got the same facilities. It's actually located more conveniently. It's close to public transport. Generally, those apartments are like that.
Less maintenance.
Right. Less maintenance, more community amenities, if it's got a school, if it's got childcare, it's got a Woolies or a Coles downstairs, they're massive advantages, right, for convenience, but without the sacrifice of less space. Because at the moment, there's a lot of apartments that are 2 bedroom that's got a Woolies downstairs. Oh, that's great. But a 2 bedroom, I can't live here for the next 30 years.
Yeah.
But what if it was a 4 bedroom, but at the same time, a little bit cheaper than buying a house?
Yeah.
I think that would be helpful, right? So that it's instantly going to create more stock.
Yep.
Right.
You talk about supply demand. We can oversupply with 2 and 1 bedroom apartments, but that's not what the demand needs.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So it's not necessarily about that. And then it is interesting. I do see a lot of developers and stuff here where you can combine. So they'll have their floor plates, and there's like people can combine 2 2-bedders to create a 4-bedder. You see that a little bit, a bit of flexibility there, but they're not designing and thinking in mind with families in mind. Yeah, apartments over here. So I think you're right. The biggest thing over there is apartments are designed with family in mind.
Yeah.
And it's a multi-generational family, like you said.
That's
like
right.
You, your wife, your 2 kids, and your parents could live in an apartment.
Correct.
And it would be really comfortable over there.
Yeah.
Whereas there's no, maybe 0.01% of apartments over here could house that sort of scenario.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think that's the biggest difference. And that's something I'd say that we could take away from there, right? And I think it's not just unique to South Korea. I think a lot of the Asian countries that have high density apartments are like that, like Hong Kong, for example, because it's also expensive.
Yeah.
Right. But they build more apartments, perhaps bigger, to stimulate the supply, because that's the only way.
Well, land is expensive, right? But the building depreciates.
Yeah.
As we all know.
Yeah.
But the land depreciates. So, and in places like Hong Kong where it's an island, like it's, landlocked, I should say.
Yeah. And also I think improving the public transport system, Like public transport is so convenient in South Korea.
Look, I think we're going in that direction in Sydney in particular with all the metros and things popping up. Like they're definitely trying to get to a better public transport situation. But you're definitely right. I think parts of Asia, man, do it better than anywhere.
Yeah, it's just on time. It's frequent. You don't have delays. Like, you know, even yesterday they had some massive delays, right? Yeah. It's just stuff like that doesn't happen.
The big one for me is the tax, and I'm not suggesting we tax people that have multiple investment properties more. I think there'd be a lot of backlash against that, especially because, you know, everyone, you know, a lot of Australians have built wealth around property, and your mum and dads who own their PPR and they own one, maybe two investment properties. That's most investors are in that boat. Yeah. You know, you don't want to discourage that too much, but maybe there's some leniency, you know, in the other way. I don't know. Maybe that's something smarter people than me should be thinking about.
Well, I think that's a good point because we don't have the population challenge that South Korea has, right, in terms of the demand for housing, you know. So, yeah, I think their housing is expensive because there's just so many people, right? Yeah. But because we're not as populated, you know, I think that kind of stuff will help. Yeah. So that we can see housing more as shelter. Yeah. So that we don't end up in a worse situation. If people can start changing their mindset that housing is not just wealth creation. Yeah. It's actually, you know, the priority is shelter. Yeah. You know, or the government can recognize that is shelter first, then after that, investment. Yeah. And kind of have, you know, rather than encouraging people to buy housing as investment, maybe just stay neutral. Yeah. You know, you don't have to disincentivize.
Government staying neutral is the biggest thing, right? But if investors are the ones that are out there, then builders are going to build and developers are going to develop for investors. The other side is building for families, which I love. It's fascinating, and I think I'd love to compare more different cultures, what they do compared to what we do, because I think there's so much we can learn there. Sometimes we're in this little Australian bubble. Oh, yeah. And this is how it is over here. And we get comments too. A lot of our overseas viewers, they're like, oh man, so many property professionals in Australia. Like, and it's like, yeah, because like this is how it is here. Yeah. You know, which is really interesting. Mate, I want to end it there because I think it's so fascinating. But I do want to end it with, you've learnt some Korean over there. What can you teach me? any
right.
How do I sign off in Korean?
All right. That's hard, man. Man, I'll teach you how to say hello, man.
Oh, well, we should have done that at the start. But let's do it.
Let's teach you how to say hello instead. All right.
What about goodbye? Can I say?
Oh, goodbye is complicated.
Okay, hello.
Yeah. Because goodbye is complicated because it's based on, are you leaving? Are you staying? Who's going? Who's... Yeah. And I probably don't even know how to say goodbye on a podcast. Like, are we staying and they're going? Or are we going, they're staying? Like,
good point.
Yeah, so 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Is hello. Yeah.
안녕하세요.
Yeah, 안녕하세요.
We should edit that.
No, you just say it quickly. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
That's it. Beautiful.
I love it, man.
That's good pronunciation.
Hey, good to have you back.
Oh, so good to be back.
Let's make this regular again, man.
100%. And we'll continue the Korean lessons.
Love it.
Man, I'll teach you what I learned.
Love it.
All right. See you, mate.
See you, man.
This is Jason He, the sexiest voice in property, here to tell you that the Property Now podcast offers opinions on Australian property news for informational and entertainment purposes only, and general in nature. It does not take into account your objectives, financial situation, or needs. It does not constitute professional advice. Always seek expert guidance before making any property-related decisions.